Welcome in, everybody, once again, back here to the Two Guys and Beer podcast studios in the beautiful small house. Really kind of making things happen here, possibly on camera. So, you can see all of the magnificent vista behind us, whatever it is that we decide that it's going to look like.
Don't mind the wrinkles.
Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
We're not wrinkle-free yet.
Yep. Yeah, got to work on that a little bit. So.
One step at a time,
Continue it, always perpetually improving. That's what they say, right? Like as long as you keep getting better, that's the A number one.
After more of this dragon's milk you'll be talking about here in a second, I think we'll get mighty good.
That's kind of what we've said. That's been kind of a running theme through a handful of episodes is the best ideas and the best plans are usually towards the end of the episodes. So today we're talking about Dragon's Milk. It is a brewery that it really focuses on bourbon barrel-aged drinks. Most of them are ales, primary beers that they have. They have a red ale, an aged stout, and a golden ale. They also have a milk reserve that is in 3 different flavors, coffee, chocolate, s'mores, and oatmeal cookie. Then they have a triple mash barrel-aged stout as well. But a lot of them are, bourbon barrel is kind of their thing. They also make bourbon as well. We'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But
I like bourbon.
I do like me some bourbon. That is...
You might have to do a bourbon podcast.
I'm not beyond that. Maybe
on the beer podcast.
Maybe we'll do a follow-up episode.
There we go.
With some Dragon's Milk bourbon as well. And we can
Where's
try...
this? New Holland? Is that what it was? I don't remember.
Let's see here. Let me try to get to another spot on the page here.
New Holland Brewing Company.
New Holland Brewing Company.
Holland, Michigan.
Holland, Michigan is where they are from, and that's where we're going to take you on today's journey. I mean, maybe not necessarily to Holland, Michigan.
Sit back, relax, buckle your seatbelt, and board the dragon.
But we'll aggressive. All right.
Hop on.
So,
there's plenty of room on here.
We're getting wild right from the get-go here. Yeah, so Holland, Michigan, that's where New Holland Brewing Company is from, and that's where the Dragon's Milk. And today we're going to be doing Dragon's Milk Bourbon Barrel Aged Stout. So if you've known me or Sean too much, or if you've spent too much time talking to us or listened to the podcast quite a few times, you know that we typically dabble more in the IPA or ale realm. Don't usually get too deep into darker coffee-ish or stout type of beers. We obviously had some when we had the Mobcraft, the Advent calendar, that was fantastic. That was a lot of fun. I still have a couple of those still in my refrigerator from that. But you get a little variety from time to time, and this is going to be something we're going to be kind of going a little bit more off the proverbial rails, doing something a little bit different. So I hope you enjoy our journey today that we're all going to take together. So climb aboard, as Sean said, climb aboard the dragon.
Here we go.
So kind of going through the bourbon that they have here. First and foremost, as we mentioned before, Dragon's Milk Bourbon Barrel Aged Stout. Sean, let's get the episode kicked off appropriately.
I'm so excited to try this. It said coffee flavoring, and I can't stand coffee. So we'll let her rip here and see how it goes, huh? What was it, aged, 3 months in a bourbon barrel?
Aged 3 months in a bourbon barrel. I can already kind of smell some of the bourbon smell just from popping the top a little bit.
Sure can.
Side of the bottle says it's been a term, Dragon's Milk has been a term used to describe potent ales that were bestowed in celebration at the end of a journey. Our signature stout carries on that tradition today. Roasted malt delivers notes of coffee, Sean's favorite, and chocolate.
I can't wait.
Married with sweet undertones of vanilla and oak from a 3-month stay in the bourbon barrels to create a truly legendary blend of flavor. So, as we mentioned, they definitely got some of that coffee flavor, but spent some time in there. This is not for the faint of heart, not only being a stout, but it is also 11% ABV. So, buckle your seatbelts and hold on tight. So
it's going to be legendary. Here we go.
Get a little bit of coffee. I mostly get almost the chocolate.
I get some chocolate. To me, it kind of tasted smoky a little bit too.
Yeah.
Now I'm tasting the coffee. The
little kind of aftertaste.
The long aftertaste. Yeah. I don't like coffee. Have I explained that yet? I don't like coffee. I drink maybe one coffee a year, and it's not even a coffee. It's sugar.
Right.
It's a cold vanilla,
Right. Yeah.
something with ice in it and espresso.
You're not getting like the Folgers and just throwing like 4 scoops into the thing and hitting go on it. You're actually doing, some sort of mixy.
No, I don't mixy anything. No mixy.
Mixy.
I like to drinky, not coffee.
There we go. Yeah, I don't drink a ton of coffee myself. A little bit when I'm at work. Usually the afternoons get to be kind of dragging on a little bit after lunch. But I usually I have some like little K-cup, the pods or whatever. And
sure,
they're all flavored, of course. Like vanilla hazelnut or something else. It's not just a plain high level coffee or something like that. But just give me one coffee and I'm like buzzing after that. So
you can definitely taste the alcohol in here. That bourbon alcohol type taste for sure. And I'll say it's not too strong. It's not as strong as I was expecting on the palate. I could probably stand to drink a couple of these. I don't know if I would seek this beer out personally, but it's not bad beer. Like it said, it's definitely not for the faint of heart, for a specific crowd of beer drinkers, like the Guinness type drinkers, the heavy beer drinkers for sure.
This is something you could see eating maybe a steak with this. Sit down and have one of those.
Yeah, I'm at a loss for words.
Maybe
now.
like
I want a steak now. Actually, some prime rib now with this
New York
beer.
strip there, and about a medium rare with maybe a big old dollop of garlic butter over the top.
In town, we might have to go a trip into town and get some steak.
Exactly. If nothing else, maybe we'll try to break into the meat locker or something. They probably got something there. They got some good stuff over there. That's for sure. So a little bit about Dragon's Milk here. Sean touched on it a little bit, but right from the get-go, you go to their website, dragonsmilk.com. It says right initially, that's the first thing you come across or whatever, at the top as they talk a little bit about the Madcap coffee and things like that. But the first sentence, the first paragraph is, we aren't necessarily for everyone. In fact, we are intentionally not for everyone. We're comfortable knowing that our bold, purposefully unique portfolio is engineered for our types of people. So they're already kind of setting it up that like, this is what I like.
Right.
If you like it, great. But if you don't like it,
too bad.
That's fine.
Go get yourself you don't Coors Light.
Exactly. And there's a lot of places that like do go above and beyond trying to accommodate everybody and something like that. But it's kind of nice to be able to have certain businesses that are like, no, this is what I'm going to be. And if you don't like it, that's totally fine. You can give me a negative review, but you're not who we're looking for.
I like that too.
We don't want to have somebody that doesn't like it. We're not going to have something for everybody. So that's fine with us.
And I think a part of that too, when companies do that and make this type of beer, they don't skimp on quality then. Like the quality of the beer is that much better because they're not trying to diversify and make so many different line of beer. Like this is what we do, love it or hate it. I think it definitely makes the quality of it better. Like when I initially read this, when we were talking about coffee, I'm like, oh gosh, coffee, I can't stand coffee. So I'm already going into this Dragon's Milk beer with a different mindset. Like I'm not going to drink this or like this. And surprisingly, it's not too bad. You don't really taste much of the coffee till the aftertaste. So I would definitely drink more of this for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's and I'm not gonna. So many times, we've cracked the top and had a couple of swigs and said, it's pretty smooth, easy drinking, whatever. This is definitely not like smooth and easy drinking. No. It's not hard drinking. Don't get me wrong. It's not rough drinking. It's not brutal, but this is definitely like, if you were to have 2 of them, you'd probably be full. You're not going to have a 6-pack of these. And if you do, God bless you.
And if you haven't eaten anything, you're going to be snoozing pretty quick.
Absolutely. So it's definitely, it packs a punch and it's not afraid to show it, but it's got good flavor. Like I said, for me, it's got that very chocolatey forward, but you do get that bourbon feel to it. You do kind of like, it's not boozy, but you can definitely, that there's alcohol. It's not hiding. That's for sure. They say our types of people, the ones who give a damn, who aren't satisfied by conventional, who quest for novel experiences and flavors to get lost in, is kind of what that's what their thing is. And that's what they're trying to kind of go for. They're just embracing what it is. They've embraced essentially like the art of mixing beer with bourbon barrels, because bourbon barrels, you can only use them essentially once. You put the bourbon in there, however many years or however many months you're going to have it in there. But once you're done with that, that's the end of the bourbon barrel.
Right.
They don't just like toss them out and burn them. They actually give them to different places, and places use it. Some places will put beer in there because beer, once you get past the initial brewing stage, has to sit and ferment for a little while and actually become beer. So it usually sits in there. So this is something that they'll put it in that type of thing, and it'll draw the flavors out of the wood to try to help flavor what it is. You know much about bourbon, and some people do, some people don't. But if you know much about bourbon, they have to have specific oak. They have to have, the white American oak, and they can flavor the wood a little bit, or you can have some different charring with the wood, when they actually build the barrels to be able to get the bourbon to taste a little bit different. And so now you're also getting kind of another layer deep of you're getting a specific bourbon flavor from specific bourbon barrels, but now you're also adding that into a beer. So you're getting that extra level of, I don't know, preciseness, because you could try it, maybe it's another bourbon barrel, but a different type of bourbon barrel with different types of staves, and it would taste a little bit different. So now you have to there's that extra layer of, we talked about having that narrow focus, that's why when you look on their website, they only have 6-7 beers that they really do on a consistent basis. Just as a side note, the triple mash barrel aged stout is just shy of 20%. That one's 18.7 ABV is what they say. Extremely limited, once a year is when they do that one, and that one is not messing around.
I wonder when they do that one. We might have to take a trip out to Michigan.
Well, let's click on the learn more.
Yeah.
It's got to be in here somewhere.
I'm intrigued enough. I would drive out to Michigan to try that beer.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I'm curious.
100%. Let's see here.
I wonder, is that in the UP or is that in the lower portion of Michigan? I wonder.
Well, I guess I don't know. I have not been to Holland, Michigan lately.
Yeah, back to the label here. It said Dragon's Milk has been a term used to describe potent ales that were bestowed in celebration at the end of a journey. When you first read that at the beginning of the podcast, the first thing I thought about was Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
You like that movie?
Movies. I liked it. I like the movie. I like the original series, The Hobbit. I think that they messed it up because it was kind of like the Lord of the Rings were 3 books. They made 3 movies. They made extended cuts. They made all the things. It was fantastic. The Hobbit was 1 book that they made into 3 movies, and they added a bunch of stuff that didn't actually happen just to try to make the movie better. And it was that one could have been 1.5, almost 2 movies at best. 3 just was
a bit much.
Yeah, they were trying to capitalize on what was there. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I get it. Here's a suitcase full of cash.
Money,
Do you want to go ahead and grab that or not?
Money talks.
So yeah, I don't know. I liked it. I enjoyed it, but definitely once you get to The Hobbit, that started to steer off the rails for me.
Yeah, I thought it was a good series overall. Although, like we were talking earlier, I can't stand the main character, Frodo. I think it is the worst character in that movie franchise. So much so that it annoys the shit out of me when I'm watching. Really? You're back to this freaking clown again? All the other characters are fantastic, but Frodo, whine and moan and, oh my gosh.
Now, is it Frodo, the character, or is it the actor that played him?
Both.
For you. You just don't like anyone. Fair enough.
I don't like either one of them. But yeah, the series is pretty good. I enjoyed the series. Have you watched, didn't Amazon try to reboot it in a television program?
Yeah, they did.
I think I watched 1 or 2.
I don't remember the name of it. Yeah, I didn't watch it at all.
It was kind of goofy.
See it. Yeah, there was a prequel or it had something to do with it. It was kind of story adjacent, if you will.
Yeah, it wasn't. I remember watching 2 episodes and it just wasn't
right.
It didn't wet my willy to watch it again, that's for sure. Yeah. Frodo was not in there, so that was a plus.
Well, there you go. You got that going for you.
I think they wrote the script after they drank probably a 4-pack of this Dragon's Milk because it wasn't the same.
Well, you loosen up on the ideas just a little bit when you get that deep into it.
That's when they think they become good, remember?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You just wait. You give it about another half an hour. The ideas are going to be just fantastic. That's when we start buying tickets for the,
right.
They have a, coming up in St. Cloud here in Minnesota. They have it all over, apparently all over the nation, but St. Cloud, Duluth, in Minnesota, probably in the city somewhere, maybe in Rochester or whatever it is. I think it's AMC is doing a thing where they're doing every Friday night where you can go and you can see one of the movies. They're doing the full on director's cut though.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to be a
nice.
4.5 type of bit. But there is a Sunday at the end of, I believe it's the end of March. I have to look it up because that's coming up here pretty soon. They're doing a full-on marathon. Starts at noon, and it's all 3 movies, all extended cuts, and it's estimated between 1 and 2 in the morning to get done. You get about a half-hour break in between each movie as kind of a little bio break, get some nachos or something like that or whatever. But yeah, it's a good solid 13-hour day.
I don't know if I could do that.
I would absolutely do it. I'm a sucker for something like that. Of course, I also did years ago when I had the bar, when that was open. I don't know if you're aware. I did the Harry Potter marathon. There was a group of us were just talking about it, and it was probably another one of those decisions after a couple of idea makers. And we're like, we should probably do something like that. And, schedule worked out that we had somebody else working. We did it like over the course of like a Sunday. We started at like, God, what did we start? Like 6 a.m. or something like that on Sunday. So it was well before the bar opened. Sure. We watched like maybe 1 or 2 movies before anybody even showed up. And somebody came in, they walked downstairs like, what are you guys doing? We had like a TV that we'd brought in and chairs and recliners and stuff that we set up like kind of just outside of my office in the basement, and all day long and then all through the night. And, I had the cooks leave. I'm like, leave the fryer on, because about 3 a.m. we're going to want some like cheese curds or something or whatever.
Mini tacos.
Exactly. Yeah. So we ended up making something like that. But yeah, it was about 25 hours worth of movie that we watched. We watched all 8 movies, basically just right back to back to back. I think we stopped maybe twice to get some food, but
all Harry Potter, huh?
All Harry Potter all the time.
You want to know a fun fact about me?
Tell me a fun fact about you in regards to Harry Potter.
I don't know if it's a lot of fun, but I have never once in my life watched a Harry Potter movie or read a book.
Well, there you go.
I've got to be one of the few in the world.
There's probably not many, because they've been out there quite a bit.
I've been told they're good.
Yeah,
but
they're pretty good.
Haven't mustered myself up any energy to bother with it.
Right. I mean, it depends kind of what you're looking to get into. It was you could definitely tell as you were watching the movies, like how generationally it changed. That like when it first came out, the first movie, the first book, everything like that was what it was. And it stayed, and there's been studies and people have talked about that, like the books and the movies and everything follow along the maturity of the characters, but really in a way it almost ended up following along like the maturity of readers. Okay. You know what I mean? Because like if you get into like the first book and it's amazing and it's whatever, but you're 12, by the time the next book comes out, you're 13, 14, and then a couple years later, now you're 15 and you're getting into your teenage angst or whatever it be. And by the time you get to like the 8th book or whatever, you're into your like early mid 20s, so like having a very light type of movie, like the first one, is just not what you're looking for. And so by the time you get to like that last one, it just seems like it changed quite a bit. And I mean, it definitely matured, became a lot more serious, over time, but I don't know. I mean, they're fun, and you got to kind of suspend a lot of mental reality, but
maybe I'll have to partake in one of those movies at one point in time. I know we're getting a little off course here from this Dragon's Milk from New Holland, Michigan.
There's dragons in Harry Potter, so it works.
There is, but this next movie, there isn't any dragons yet. But what other series, when just popped into my mind exactly when you said you started watching them when you were young, and they kind of kept carrying on into your 20s because there's so many of them, and they went from what they were to a complete fabrication and complete the goofiness.
Die Hard?
The Fast and the Furious.
I mean, that's true. You're not lying. You're not wrong.
The first one came out when we were 19 or 20, and it was a great movie about street racing, good. Now they're flying Fieros in space. Yeah. It's like, what the hell happened?
It definitely took a left turn. They had to add different people, and
I don't even know if they turned left. They just went straight up into space.
I guess I just assumed since it's racing, you're taking left turns.
Well, they're straight line racing, this one.
I suppose that's fair.
I'm the racing fan, I'll tell you.
There we go. It's a
quarter mile. It's a drag race.
I went out of my lane, if you will.
Sorry to blow up. I'm sorry to blow up on you. I do like the circle racing. Yeah, right. I'm a NASCAR freak, so
I enjoy some of it. I don't follow it religiously. I don't seek it out. I think we were talking about this earlier, that I won't like seek it out, but it's kind of one of those things in a way. It's almost like watching golf on TV, that like, I won't seek it out, but if I end up landing on it for a second and they go like through, what do they call it? Through the line or through the pack or whatever it is. And they talk about, like things that are going on with each car and each driver and stuff like that. And I just holding the remote, and pretty soon I'm like, oh, it's been 45 minutes. Like, what? I'm still watching this. Like, well, now it's almost over now. I may as well just watch the end.
Sure.
So, things like that or whatever. Golf isn't quite like that, but it is kind of like that, where sometimes you get a little calm, watching a little bit, and pretty soon you've watched like 2 hours worth of golf on TV.
So I can't do that with golf. I'm just not a golf fan. We've golfed. I'm not a golfer. I can drive the cart like a madman.
I was going to say, I think the last time that we went golfing was in a Sandy, and I think that you just drove the cart through the cornfield.
The cornfield, yeah. I was checking out the suspension, Yeah. It worked out well.
It was.
But tennis. That is a sport that I don't necessarily care for a lot. I respect their athletes because playing tennis is incredibly hard. Like, holy shit.
There's a lot of skill that goes into it.
But that's a sport, if it's on TV and I start watching it for 30 seconds, 2 hours later, I'm still watching it because I'm just sucked into it. So tennis is that for me, for the sports where I'm just like.
Just get dialed in.
Oh, I better have another drink of the dragon's milk.
So if you, I guess we'll put it out there to any of our followers and of our listeners. If you're watching something, what's your thing? What's your sport? And not even necessarily like something you enjoy. Because I'm a hockey guy. I love watching hockey. I love going to hockey. I love everything like that. Yeah,
Minnesota North Stars.
So it's something like that's kind of my thing. I really like that. I like basketball in person. I don't really like watching it on TV. I will to a certain extent. Timberwolves, a little bit of Gophers, things like that. Football is pretty good, but what are the things you don't seek out? Like for us, like the golf or tennis or NASCAR, what are the things that you end up on that just is like, oh, what's happening? You kind of zonk out or whatever. Is it a cooking show? I don't know. Iron Chef is pretty fantastic. Whatever it is. So speaking of Dragon's Milk, let's get the train back to the tracks or whatever it is.
On track.
If we're coming out of space with Fieros, like this is, back into the angle of the sun or something. You had asked a little bit ago about Holland, Michigan.
Yeah, Holland,
Michigan. It is just outside of Grand Rapids, the Michigan side of Grand Rapids, not the Minnesota Grand Rapids. So it is probably for us, it would be the easiest way to be able to get there would be to get going really, really, really fast on 94 and then take a jump at Milwaukee and go straight over the top of Lake Michigan.
Take the ferry.
Yep. And then
the SS Badger.
Land on Holland on just the other side there. So it is on the lower P, the LP. I don't think that's a thing. I think they call it the UP and then the rest of it or something.
LP. So it's on the West Coast.
It is on the west coast of Michigan. West side. Yeah, so if we did a little trip, go through Milwaukee, go through Chicago, we take a left turn at Valparaiso, Gary, Indiana. That place is a hole, let me tell you. If there's anybody listening from Gary, I apologize.
Stay in Gary, Indiana?
I think we did. Oh, it is. We drove through there last year, going down to Kentucky. My God. Oh, it's aggressive. It's aggressive. It's fine if you're there. I apologize, whatever, but it is aggressive. But yeah, Holland is it's right basically on the lake. It's like right on it is. I don't know if you want to call it a port area, but there is like a port area in a Lake Macatawa that it goes in from Lake Michigan right on Holland, and so it is basically a port city. That is, it's closer to the port or closer to the lake than it is Grand Rapids. So, kind of a interesting spot. So, we could
a good little trip.
Yeah, we could go check that out at some point in time. It'd be kind of fun to be able to do that. So, let's see here. Back to some of the Dragon's Milk stuff here. The legend begins 2 decades ago as a single barrel experiment slumbered in the back of a New Holland cellar. Brett Vanderkamp's curiosity was lit by tales of cider aged in whiskey casks. So again, like we've talked multiple different times, home brewing gone rogue. You're just trying something. You got this, you got something going on. Let's just try it. You look at their website and you look at the stuff that they have. They actually make more bourbon than they do beer. So I think that, I'm assuming here, I'm kind of taking my own assumption out of here, but I've had a half a Dragon's Milk, so my assumptions sound better in my head than, they probably would normally. But it sounds like they were more of a distiller that now have we have these barrels and we like brewing. Let's toss one in there and see what happens. You know what I mean? Give it 3 months and let it settle in there and let it try to pull out the flavors of said barrel. So I'm assuming that's kind of part of what happened there. As far as their bio that they have on their website, They say that he set out, this is Brett Vanderkamp again, Brett Vanderkamp, the main guy, set out to design his beer that showcased the bourbon barrels as a key ingredient, which again, it pulls that flavor out of the barrel. So really it is kind of, even though you're not adding it in a way, you are adding flavor from that. So, when they say key ingredient, it really kind of is. As important as the carefully selected barley and hops, the result was overwhelming success, sparking burgeoning fanfare and demand. The Bourbon Barrel Stout flourished from an annual small batch release to what it is today, the number one selling American-made stout.
Really?
So,
wow.
You didn't even know you were drinking history.
Oh,
history
man.
in a bottle. It's kind of like time in a bottle, but history instead. The beer lineup expanded to include other bourbon barrel aged styles and the highly coveted reserve and triple mash releases. Moved proverbial mountains to bring the highest quality bourbon barrel aged beers to nearly every state in the country and a multitude of locations overseas.
Wow. So they have quite the operation over there.
In 2005, nice. Dragon's Milk brand once again spread its wings. Get it? Spread its wings because it's a dragon.
Spread its wings. I believe I can fly.
The first movie's the only good one, the Space Jam. That's the second one.
I never watched the second
I watched about 5 minutes of that thing. I'm not a big LeBron fan to begin with.
Seal.
Seal. Yep. That's a Seal bit. Who's he married to? Wasn't he married to Heidi Klum or something? I don't know.
Cool.
Anyway, so they refabricated a century-old American pot still, becoming Michigan's first whiskey distillery since Prohibition. Inspired by our brewing heritage, we crafted our now signature high malt bourbon recipes that laid the groundwork for our current lineup of bourbon expressions. And immediately they call out me and my assumptions, saying that they started as a distiller and moved into beer, by literally right there saying, no, we like the bourbon flavor with our beer. We should make bourbon after the fact. So I was completely wrong.
Come on, Andy. I expect more than you.
I don't.
I can't believe it.
I'm gonna come up short on that every time. Our flagship beer barrel bourbon was born from the same curiosity that delivered the original stout. Asked ourselves what could happen if we flipped the aging process from beer in bourbon casks to a bourbon in a beer cask. It's kind of an interesting concept. Because generally you have like the barrels, like I was saying before, it's a new cask. Like you only can use for, this goes back to like if you watch like some YouTube stuff or not YouTube, like documentaries, whether it be on Netflix, Amazon Prime, whatever it is or whatever. There's different ones. One of the good ones that I like to, whatever, is called Neat. They talk about the history of bourbon and why it's called bourbon, because every bourbon is a whiskey, but not every whiskey is a bourbon. Because it has to meet certain criteria.
Sure, yeah.
Because it was the first American whiskey or alcohol thing that had standards by the government. That the reason that they had to do bourbon.
I don't know much about bourbon, so
yeah, it was the first one by the government to be able to actually lay out standards of it. It had to have this, it had to have that, it had a certain amount of mash, a certain amount of corn, it had to have white oak American barrels that were brand new once used. That's so there's a lot of not overhead, but there's a lot of criteria that goes in with that. Part of the reason, again, if you kind of research into that or whatever, is because people were just making it in their tub and then selling it, and then they weren't necessarily going blind. People were dying from this stuff. So it was obviously got a little bit aggressive, and so and then the government, I'm here to help you.
Of course they
come in to be able to save the day, and that's where they kind of come up with the standards. So that's why there's like certain criteria for bourbon that makes it actually qualify as the name bourbon rather than just a whiskey. But every bourbon is technically a version of whiskey. It just not every whiskey meets that criteria. Sure. If that makes sense. So, but yeah, it's generally like you don't really see bourbons made in a barrel that's had something else there because that's part of the bit.
Part of the thing, yeah.
And so that's the kind of their thing. So the result is the world's original stouted bourbon. Is some of the stuff they make. So now I really want to try it. We talked before about having maybe a bourbon podcast, but now I really want to be able to do that. So they've started to do continued with that same thing, innovative products such as the small batch bourbon, flavored beer barrel bourbons, and the ready-to-serve cocktails. As stewards of the legend of Dragon's Milk, which again, on the side of the beer, it talks about being a term to describe potent ales when you return from a journey. They are the stewards of that legend. We're excited that you've chosen this journey. Like pioneers of old, we celebrate our history and embrace the future with the hopes of discovering new treasures. And the adventure continues.
I think we should journey over there to New Holland.
Let's go.
I like journeys. I like adventures.
So Dragon's Milk Bourbon Barrel Aged Stout, Crimson Keep Bourbon Barrel Aged Red Ale, which I really want to try that. Like, I like a good red ale. Tales of Gold Bourbon Barrel Aged Golden Ale. And that's when you get into like some of the more specific beers and the bourbons. As I mentioned, the beers, that's where you get into like the reserve, where they only make certain amounts, and they make a s'mores one. But they only release that during June. They have yep.
They should have that all summer.
You would think
Memorial weekend, Labor Day weekend,
right?
At least a couple
Absolutely.
weekends.
I mean, if Line and Googles can release Summer Shandy in like mid-February, you can release s'mores in April.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Madcap Coffee Chocolate Reserve. That one's the one that's out now, which spring-ish, winter into spring-ish, I guess pre-June, if you will. And then for more of a winter one, the October release is the oatmeal cookie. So it sounds like they only have one out at a time, and then they rotate through which ones. They have the 3 that are main ones, and then the 3 that rotate throughout the year. And then you get down to their Dragon's Milk Triple Mash, the results of years of honing technique and pushing the limits of what a stout can be, aged for 1 year in a hand-selected bourbon barrel. The flavor notes of Dragon's Milk, chocolate, roasted malt, vanilla, and oak are all amplified in a way that allows for balanced and refinement to shine through. That's the Triple Mash, 18.7. Be aware.
I like refinement.
So, and then they get into the high barrel bourbon, where they have Bourbon 101 and single barrel bourbon. They have some flavored ones, s'mores, baked apple pie, sweet heat, which is made with peach and chilies. So it's some chilies flavor on there.
Interesting.
The Origin 95 proof, and then they have some other ones bonded in Origin 10-year maple barrel. Then you get into some of their craft cocktails after that. So yeah, lots of stuff that they make, and bourbon is part of the thing. And it's interesting that they started as beer using bourbon barrels and then went into
bourbon. Yeah.
It just seems, I mean, it works obviously, and it's been fantastic.
Apparently it works for them. They were the number one stout in America, apparently, according to their website.
I enjoy it. This is pretty darn good. I'm self-admittedly not the biggest stout person.
Right.
I mean, I'm kind of stout if you see me on camera. I'm a little shaped like a D-cell battery, but that's
You're
fine.
barrel aged, Andy. You're barrel aged.
Barrel is the key. That's that is really the key there. But this is good stuff. This is I definitely highly recommend it. Like they say on here, that you're not necessarily for everyone. Be advised, if you really don't like stouts, if you really don't like that, I will not recommend it. Don't go get it.
Probably not a good idea.
But if you're willing to kind of venture out of your comfort zone a little bit, if you're willing to kind of give it a shot, if you're willing to try something that has a little hair to it, if you will, that's not maybe the best way to put it, but you know what I'm saying.
It's got a great adjective.
It's got some oomph behind it. You know what I mean? This is not where if you're mostly just drinking like the Coors Lights and you're just gonna get like a flat to tall boy Mick Goldens for whatever. Which is fine. To each their own. I've played softball before, and
it's really
that's where you get a tray full of Coors Light or Keystone or something like that.
It's really not.
It's fine.
Andy lies.
But if you're looking for, if that's where you live, I guess if that's where you live, stay there. This is not the right one to be able to venture out for, because you will open it and you probably won't even taste it, because it'll smell and it'll make the things happen and your nose will freak out.
Your nostrils will flare up and you'll shove matchsticks up in it.
And maybe even set a new world record. I don't know. But if you are willing to, I definitely highly recommend this is something to kind of venture out. Comes in a 4-pack. It's probably about all you really need. You're not, again, you're not having a 6-pack of it.
One is almost all I need.
Yeah.
And I would say for me not even liking coffee, like I refuse to drink coffee. I just, I cannot get over a coffee taste. I just don't like coffee. I would drink more of this for sure.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Yeah, it's got, like Sean said, I think a little bit of coffee kind of maybe back flavor, little after like lingering taste, but it's got the way that it describes it with kind of the more chocolate married with sweet undertones of vanilla and oak. You get a lot of that on the front end, a lot of that right from the get go.
Yeah.
I don't get the coffee like you said until a little bit later on, and is really subtle at that point in time. You can tell that it's there, but it's not overwhelming or anything. It doesn't take over the flavor.
Isn't.
It's a good stout. I definitely high five my buddy Pete on the fire department. I would definitely tell him. I might see him later tonight. I'll probably tell him like, hey, if you had this at all, because he likes kind of little oatmeal stout or some of those things or whatever. So I think this would be something that he would probably enjoy as well. So yeah, that's kind of the story of Dragon's Milk. Holland, Michigan, New Holland. Not the farm equipment, the city, just outside of Grand Rapids. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. I'd definitely drink it again. In fact, I might actually check the liquor store next time I'm there and see if there's anything else from New Holland there that we might be able to get here.
If you find some bourbon, though, let me tell you, I'm in for some of that. Like that's
I don't usually shop for that, though, so I don't even know where to go to look. You're more of the liquor guy.
I will try to do that. So. I will look for some of that because I feel like some of these labels look familiar. They have the Beer Barrel Bourbon, 80 proof, Beer Barrel Bourbon 101, 101 proof, and then the Beer Barrel Bourbon Single Barrel Cask Strength. Has to do with how much they, not dumb it down, but like filter down when they get into different casks. But the flavored ones, though, the s'mores and the baked apple pie and the sweet heat, I'm not really like, I mean, I like a little bit of heat, but, when it comes to drinks, I don't. Food, I like some heat. But
I do like spicy food.
I don't generally drink like
I've never had a
spicy
drink, though.
I've had a couple, and it's, I don't know, I feel like it kind of takes away, to me at least. Like, that's not my jam.
I've had that shot, what's it called? Prairie Fire.
Prairie Fire?
I've had those.
They
I
throw
like
a little
those,
bit of like Tabasco in there.
Tabasco isn't hot to me, though.
Right.
So, like, I like heat. Like, I like a lot of spice. Tabasco is nothing to me. So,
right. Yeah, the sweet heat steeped with arbol chilies and white peach. Maybe it's got some heat to it or whatever, but I think a little bit of flavor, some warm flavor, I think it'd be good. But the s'mores one, I think it'd be probably good. Probably a little sweet, but I think it'd be pretty solid. But the Origin small batch, that one's kind of calling my name. They got the 10-year maple bourbon, maple barrel, I should say, toasted barrel, original bonded honey barrel. You got some options. I'll keep an eye out. I will watch for this. I promise you that. Now we'll do a follow-up episode.
Perfect.
On that one.
On some bourbon.
There we go.
Or anything else we find.
Yeah. we'll have that's when
maybe
we will do
be a series from New Holland.
That's when we will do like Coors Light, and we'll do like bourbon with it. That way you get some actual flavor. And so I've had like 6 Coors Light, and it's fine.
Why are we picking on Coors Light? Of light beer, of all light beer, that's like my beer of choice.
Pete Coors, I apologize.
Because it actually has like a taste, somewhat, like Miller Lite, Bud Light. Those suck. Those are worse than Coors Light.
Yeah, Miller Lite, Bud Light, I am not a fan.
Coors Light just comes to mind.
Like,
there's a little something there. Yeah.
Yeah. Even over recent times or whatever, if Clint is listening or whatever, I have actually taken a little bit of a shine to Busch Light. I don't mind me a tall boy of Busch Light. Busch. Or even Keystone Light. Play volleyball.
That's just Miller Light.
On Wednesdays. Yeah, it tastes better than Miller Lite. Miller Lite sucks. I did not know that, but that makes me sad now. But they have a deal at the bar that we go to after volleyball.
Excuse me, I was wrong. Keystone Light is Coors Light.
Oh, that is fine.
What I was thinking was Milwaukee's Best.
Oh,
so Milwaukee's Best
the beast
is Miller Genuine Draft. Milwaukee's Best Light is Miller Lite. And the reason it's the exact same beer, Miller Coors doesn't change at all. It's just they don't advertise Milwaukee's Best and Milwaukee's Best Light.
Right.
But it's the exact same beer. It's just not advertised. That's why it's cheaper. So if you want to save yourself some money while you're drinking beer, and you're a Miller Genuine Draft drinker or a Miller Lite drinker, get Milwaukee's Best or Milwaukee's Best Light.
There you go.
Same thing with Keystone. Keystone or Keystone Light is Coors and Coors Light.
I'll have to make sure that message gets to Tom, my dad's buddy Tom. He's moved more now into the Mick Ultra realm of world.
That's what my wife drinks. Mick Ultra Light.
I like that during like summertime. That's going to be my mow on the lawn, like we talked before. Like a mow lawn, have about 14 of them.
When you're admiring your work.
I don't know about that, but like that I actually accomplished it, that I actually did it that time. But yeah, no, that's usually so that's the deal. After volleyball, we go to this one bar or whatever, and they have a pizza and a pitcher deal, and so we usually get a thing of Keystone for that.
Sure.
So people that think I'm a beer snob, I kind of am, but at the same time, I'm happy to dabble within, like I'll get whatever, I don't, it's fine. I'm going to be selective. I'm going to ask for certain things, but if they don't have it, that's okay too. I'm accepting. That's what I am. I'm accepting and loving.
Yeah, I would agree with that, actually. I was trying to think of something if I am or not. I'm not real too picky about beer, but I do remember in Missouri, they asked me what I wanted, and they said, we have everything. I'm like, I bet you don't.
That was great. No, you don't.
I'd sure like some grain belt, but no, they didn't have any grain belt.
And the best part about that is we were at a restaurant. We weren't at a bar. I mean, they probably had a bar attached or whatever, but we weren't like at like a bar that advertised like, hey, you got to come here because we have everything you could ever imagine. And then they would have like some random like Japanese beer that, that nobody's ever heard of. It wasn't anything like that. It was just like a regular restaurant or whatever. And you're like, what do you like? Well, we got everything.
I like grain belt.
Whenever a server that clearly doesn't know what their tap list is, when they say we have everything, you know what they actually have? They have Coors Light, they have Vic Golden Light, they have Miller Light, they have Bud Light, they have Busch Light.
Probably all Budweiser and Bud Light because of Missouri. But
yep. But that's usually what they're going to have. They're not going to have. They're not going to, like I will have the War Pigs Foggy Geezer. And he'd probably look at me like I have 3 heads.
I still want to try that. In fact, I looked at that before I picked up the Dragon's Milk.
The Foggy Geezer?
I did.
Yeah, it is some pretty solid stuff. The War Pigs is, that might be a future episode at some point in time, too. So
that's just a cool name.
Dangling that one out there. Absolutely. Yeah, Ozzy Osbourne throwing that one out there.
All dressed up with like a belt of 50 cal strapped across its check.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. He'd look probably a lot like Rocksteady from Turtles.
Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, there we go.
That's from the childhood.
Was that Rocksteady or was that Bebop? Which one was
Rocksteady was the rhinoceros, Bebop was the pig.
Okay, so Bebop. So my bad. I apologize. Like I was at least I made the reference, or something.
You should know your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
So the ferry from Milwaukee to Holland across the bay.
No, we got to take the SS Badger. That goes from Ludington, Michigan to Manitowoc, Wisconsin. That's the fun one to take. I've been on that a few times with my motorcycle.
Manitowoc, there it is.
Yep, the SS Badger.
Manitowoc, the SS Badger. There we go. Ludington. Oh, right there, straight across. Found it.
How far is Ludington from New Holland?
It's a little bit of a trip.
That's a lot of fun. If you've never been on the SS Badger, if you live in the area, going across Lake Michigan, that is so worth the cost of ferrying across. It's about a 4-hour tour.
Not a 3-hour tour?
Not quite. Just a little bit longer. It is so much fun to be on that ship. So if you ever get a chance to do that, it is definitely worth getting on the SS Badger and going across the ferry.
That sounds fun.
Across Lake Michigan.
I think it'd be a good time.
Especially on a motorcycle. You ride your motorcycle right up on the ship. It's a lot of fun.
Ludington, for those, in about 90 minutes from Holland.
Okay, is that just Holland north or south from Ludington?
Holland is south of Ludington.
Oh, okay, so closer to Chicago and all that down there. Gary, Indiana.
Yep.
Well, that's a bummer.
Let's see here. Holland. Let's check Holland even from here. Let's go from Minnesota. From right here, it is about 9 hours and 15 minutes. Plus or minus.
Not with us driving, though.
May or may not be tolls.
Fairly quick.
Your destination is in a different time zone.
I don't pay tolls in Chicago. You can pass 3 of them a year without getting in trouble.
I have no reference to argue that.
Because I've been through a lot.
Remember when we went to Chicago on a whim one night?
Yeah.
See, this is when story times just starts happening. I've encapsulated Dragon's Milk. Go and check it out. Whatever their bourbons, their beers, everything like that. But Yeah, it was a Friday night. We were watching the Twins and the White Sox, and we were having a good time. I was living in nice
we were
city.
watching the game, were we?
I thought we were watching the game.
Maybe we were. I thought it was just a party or something.
I mean, it probably was, but I think
we were definitely drinking beer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because that's when the best ideas come out. And
this was a great idea.
There was probably a bunch of us that were probably there at one point in time, but I think at the end of the night, because we started talking about, like, it'd be kind of cool to be able to go and check it out, and Chicago's not that far away.
Right.
And the more we talked about it, it's like, well, I don't got anything going on this weekend. You want to be back at my house tomorrow morning? Let's pull the pin and, drive right down there. Well, then a couple of things kind of jumped up and bit us right square in the ass part. One, the game that we were watching went to like 13 innings.
Yes, so, I do remember that.
So you ended up hanging out at my place till all hours of the night, waiting for this darn game to get done. And then at the end of that, we're like, okay, this is fine. Tomorrow's game is at like 6 p.m. or something like that. It's like a 6-hour drive. So as long as you're here, 10, 11 o'clock or something like that or whatever, we'll take off at that point in time. A little bit of Google action or whatever to look for tickets. No. It's like a 2 o'clock game.
Yeah.
So Sean leaves my house at like 11:30 midnight, and he's back at my door, rap, at like 4 or 5 in the morning. And like calling me on the phone, kind of like back in the basketball days. Get up. And finally I get my happy ass out of bed, and we take the Avenger across the freaking state of Wisconsin and pull in, and about the it was probably about and we're like, and at the time, this is how naive in a way. We pull in and we're like, God, I hope there's tickets. White Sox were terrible that year.
Yeah, they were pretty rough.
And so we get there and like, do you have some tickets available, like upper level or something, like some cheap tickets? And they're like, it's like 10,000 people here. It's like a 50,000 seat stadium. There's like 10,000 people. So obviously we got in for pretty cheap or whatever. And we're like, well, now we have to find a place to stay. That's where we ended up finding like Gary, Indiana or something just across the way. And that was just it was fine, but it was kind of a disaster. And then a 1 o'clock game the next day, and drove right back and back in town. And at the time, my girlfriend, she calls and she's like, hey, what are you doing tonight? You want to, have dinner or, whatever? And I'm like, well, I'm in Chicago at the Twins game with Sean. Wait, what? We're going to be home this weekend. I'm like, well, I just it felt like a fun thing to do. And apparently that was so far outside of the realm of like, this is what normal people do, And so she's like, I'm not that spur of a moment kind of guy, or she's not that spur of a moment kind of person. She's like
wild.
Exactly. That's kind of what it was. Like, this is just, I can't keep up with that. I'm not that type of person. I don't think this is going to work. And I'm like, whoa. This is not, I'm not like this all the time. I mean, I kind of am like, but it's okay. Like, this isn't a big deal or whatever. I mean, now we've been married for 10 years, so it's fine.
Now they're married. Yeah.
So it ended up where I talked her out of it, or talked her into it, whatever.
One or the other.
Yeah, I talked to her, and she still is, to this day, still rolling her eyes at me about how silly and wild I am. So I'm sure she's going to listen to this episode and probably message me while it's happening, and just
I can't believe I was almost the demise of your marriage before it began.
It was awfully close.
I can't believe that.
It was awfully close. You
all
almost
for a Twins White Sox game.
I know, you almost took us down. It was close just to go be able to watch some baseball.
Now she gives us every idea for the podcast.
Exactly. Yeah, she does probably more research than I do. And lets us have this beautiful studio that we have here with the camera. See, this magnificent vista that's
and the wrinkly green screen.
Whatever it may be.
Tech guy has got to get this wrinkle figured out.
Yep. We're gonna put him on it. He's all over it. So yeah, that's my story of a Dragon's Milk, and then also like my story of a bunch of other stuff, and us going to Chicago and almost imploding. It's fine. It worked out okay.
Good times. It was fun. Twins won, so that's all that matters. All right, so what are we at the on-tap portion of the episode, where we talk about this stupid shit, even though we've already talked about enough stupid shit? So this is going to be more stupid shit?
Yes, stupider, smarter.
And this is
we've had the beer now, so now it's all smarter.
I don't think I'm getting smarter. I almost want another one of those, but at 11%, it might not be a good idea.
My number for baseball is 11. So
you are ones.
Yeah, so it
You've
counts.
Been ones forever.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you that I'm ones, but there was somebody that was on our team this last year that So ones is the nickname, 11, 1, you get the whole bit or whatever, ONES on the back of my jersey.
Right.
Last probably, I don't know, however many jerseys I've had, 3, 4, or 5 jerseys. I'll say ones on it. So I am standing in the on-deck circle and whatever, and just waiting to go up there. And all of a sudden I hear a bunch of laughing from all of the wives that were sitting kind of just off to the edge, Angela and, everybody's sitting there, Jazzy and, whatnot. Everybody's just laughing hysterically. And I'm like, the hell's going on? Whatever, no big deal. I just go up to bat or whatever, and they start yelling something and laughing or whatever. And I don't hear what they're saying. And I'm like, whatever they're saying doesn't make any sense.
You're focused at the task at hand.
I was dialed in, and I probably hit a home run, and I didn't do it. I probably legged out an infield tapper to the mound or something.
Probably not.
I probably no.
Exactly. You're not legging out any infield.
Well, he threw it into the next fields or something. Whatever happened, it's neither here nor. Don't quit judging my athletic ability here. That's why we're doing a podcast, so I don't have to have athletic ability.
I'm not judging your athletic ability. I'm judging your speed.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'm willing to accept that. I've had too many Dragon's Milk to be able to be too fast on my feet. So I get done with whatever's happening, come over to the bench, and I'm like, what's going on? Because they're clearly laughing, and it's in regards to me. But they're not laughing at me. They're just laughing something that I'm involved in. I don't know what's going on. So apparently one of the wives, as I was kind of like ready to, kind of get going or whatever, and she says, how do you pronounce his last name? And Angela's like, Beckstrom. She's like, okay. Like, what? I don't understand. And she's just totally baffled by this or whatever.
Because your jersey said something else.
My jersey apparently said onus. ONES. Onus. And so she had been for weeks. Here we go, onus. So constantly, that's what I was. I was onus. And so now, like to this day, like in softball or whatever, like people just call me onus whenever I'm doing something or whatever. And, she obviously felt sheepish. And, if she's listening, I apologize, but
Ones.
It was kind of one of those,
that?
like it was our shortstop's girlfriend. I don't think I think that I'm not sure that they're married or not. I don't 100% know, but super nice lady. She's super fun. She likes to have a couple of Keystones at different times or whatever. So a lot of good times had or whatever. But that was one of those times where there was 3, 4 of those wives, girlfriends hanging out, and like, how do you pronounce his name? It's like, oh, it's not Onus. What is it on the jersey? What? So yeah, so I was Onus at that point in time. So
I'm gonna start calling you Onus from now on.
There we go.
That's gonna be your call sign on the podcast.
I don't even know how we ended up on that conversation or whatever, but
I don't know either.
Dragon's Milk path that I'm on.
We were talking about shit though.
We were, yeah, and the bullshit that's happened.
Dung,
all
that stuff. So I have a story about shit and poop.
Let's
and dung.
go. Tell me more.
I will tell you more, and I'll probably have to read this for verbatim because after this Dragon's Milk, I'm probably not going to be too spry with my memory of this article. But you like to cook.
I do.
You cook. I don't cook. I hate cooking. I think the kitchen is the most useless room in the house and should all be blown up with a grenade. But you like to cook. Would you ever consider using recycled poop to cook food?
No.
Well, why not?
I have heard of things like that, not necessarily even to cook, but more so for so I grew up on a farm, so we obviously used it to fertilize the food.
Right.
I mean, it was like hay, so it wasn't food for me necessarily, but you use that for even
pig
for
manure, cow manure.
Use it for stuff like that. You even put it on your garden. So essentially it, in a way, gets in there, but mostly it's filtered out and you just get the nutrients.
I mean, in North Korea, they use human feces to fertilize and they all get worms. So you probably don't want to use human feces. But
well, I'm going to try not to go to North Korea anytime soon.
But in this case, you have to have a can-do attitude. Lots of doo-doo. Doo-doo.
All right.
Lots of doo-doo attitude.
So 11% ABV Dragon's Milk. It's a
can doo-doo attitude here. So these people on this article I might read, I'm going to read this off the New York Post. So you can all look it up. But these people choose to live off the grid. Well, they like to heat up meals and, they don't like to use microwaves a whole lot. They actually use recycled poop to cook their food. And they actually have a device to do that. And there's some photos and stuff in the article. That if you go to New York Post, I'm sure you can find this article and stuff. But let me explain Let me just read the article. I'm not going to explain. I'm just going to read.
I have heard that, like, if you get like a compost thing going on, that like the chemical reactions does create heat, which is why sometimes it'll combust, and so there is some warmth in there. But that's a little weird. I'm not putting my food in there, but maybe if it's wrapped, put some foil around it or something. It's fine. Tupperware container.
So heating up a meal in a microwave or oven isn't always feasible for nonconformists who prefer surviving on nature's bounty to spending thousands on traditional appliances in an inflated economy.
Thousands? What kind of microwave are you getting?
Thousands. Yeah, I don't know, especially that they're using poop. So these solitary sweeties are letting all their food go to waste. So these specific people, they like to turn their poop into cooking gas. This guy is named John. He's a cabin dweller. These people are off the grid, so they do their off the grid stuff.
These are the people on the old Travel Channel or the Nat Geo Channel that are, like, and they're not even on the middle of somewhere.
They're on TikTok.
Right. But they're those kind of people. Don't get me wrong. Stuff. They're going to be the ones that survive the apocalypse. I am going to be the one that is going to be like flailing in the street when shit goes down. So carry on.
Right. So
their shit.
This shit is going down in their food, apparently, or they're cooking it. So per his many commode confessionals, the doo-doo DIYer, alongside his wife, is Finn. His name is Finn.
Okay.
Sanitarily harvests their excrement via a cost and eco-friendly apparatus known as the home biogas digester. So that's what you need to get yourself, is a home biogas digester.
I'm sure it's probably inexpensive and available for Amazon Prime delivery.
It probably is, and I think we actually have some costs here a little bit later. So biogas is a renewable energy or gas source made from organic matter. When the pair flushes a specialized toilet installed inside of their 500 square foot abode in rural Georgia. So these people live in rural Georgia. They're off the grid. They've lived there 12 years. The scat automatically flows to the device, transforming the dirty piles into clean energy. And they do go on in here in quotations, say, no, our burgers don't taste like poo, is what John claims. And no, their kitchen doesn't smell like sewer, of course, is what John is claiming. But I'm not so sure. I think I'd have to see it to believe it, type of thing.
I feel like there's a mental obstacle somewhere in here that I'd have to overcome.
Probably a lot of mental obstacles.
I may need a dragon's milk to be able to, prior to...
So instead, he claims the poop-sucking gadget masks the stench of their number twos. John adds that the machinery came with a price tag. Are you ready for the price tag? Here's the price tag of the machinery.
Maybe I should hit the... Is that too wild on the microphone there?
$1,500 for one of these machines.
Okay.
So that seems actually pretty fucking cheap.
I was going to say, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be.
No.
For some reason, one of the eco stuff like that or whatever always tends to be like, don't worry, we'll get you set up for like $13,000.
Well, that's not even the average cost of plumbing a house. The average cost of plumbing a house is about $18,000.
I see, exactly.
According to this article.
Right.
On the New York Post.
Well, if you're plumbing from scratch or replumbing it, I don't know. I plumbed the house that we're actually recording in right now for about $100 last year.
Right. And of course, they insist this their own personal feces is the fuel. The feces fuel is better for the environment. And in quotations, of course, John claims that we save natural resources by creating the methane biogas that we use for cooking. This uses less water, and they're able to create a nutrient-rich fertilizer with human excrement. Even though North Korea does it, it gives their people worms. So that's kind of interesting. When he and Finn, which remember Finn is his wife, aren't busy profiting off their droppings, their homestead, they actually rent it out for an Airbnb.
Because if you don't want to use yours, you can go and have food from somebody else's poop.
Right.
So I'm still a little unsure. Is it just this unit? Careful. This unit, like,
there's
it creates
of it right there,
which looks like the thing that I Googled here.
It looks like something that blows up or something.
Yeah, but does it just
get a bicycle
create,
pump and?
But it just creates like the heat. So essentially you're using the methane
right
off of it. I guess I kind of get it. Like, you'd think that it would have a smell to it. I guess I don't know how you overcome that, but maybe that's the methane is just methane. But anytime I've smelled methane, it smells like it's methane.
It just seems goofy. Just using your own poop to cook food.
It does.
I mean, I guess if when the end of the world happens, they'll be just fine.
Well,
they can create their own. How do you even light that on fire?
Well, it's pretty flammable.
Just the methane.
Methane's pretty flammable. It's not. It's a biogas for sure. It's pretty potent, if you will. I mean, it's a natural gas, if you will.
I've been known to have a little biogas myself.
There you go.
According to my wife.
There you go. Huh. Well, that's interesting.
So that's your interesting I'm gonna have story for the day.
Now that I have this information, I'm going to have to start harvesting my own poop to be able to cook my food.
For all you preppers out there, just get this biogas system and you're ready to go.
Exactly. And that one must be what I've Googled here or whatever. That must be the Biogas 6, which is about $14.20 on the old Google machine. The Home Biogas 2 is
number 2
is $8.29, so a little bit cheaper. So if you want to, depending on how much you're going to commit to that, if you want to lean full in or if you want to just kind of ease into it, there's options. Well,
whatever you want to do.
Yeah, why not?
All right.
Well, that's food with poop.
It's food with poop.
Yep.
You want the fact of the day containing beer? It's kind of interesting. In the 1600s, some monks in Germany only drank beer and water during their 40-day fast for Lent. It seems like an interesting Lent options, water and beer, as opposed to beer, fish and tuna and those sort of things.
Because beer has a lot of nutrients and things like that, so I guess it kind of works.
Yeah, that's what this particular fact says. Apparently, these monks in the 1600s, they concocted an unusually strong brew that was full of carbohydrates and nutrients. In 2011, some journalist apparently attempted to recreate this brew, and he lost 25 pounds during his fast.
Oh, wow.
So, for all you beer drinkers out there, if you're looking to lose weight, there you go.
As Andy's hand goes right up into the air. Usually I don't lose weight drinking beer, but it could happen now.
Do this concoction with the fast, and there you go.
There we go.
You'll be ready for baseball.
Yeah. Wait, fast? Like fast food or?
Well,
Well, it might count. There's nothing really fast about me, but that's fine. So yeah, that's our story of dragon's milk and a lot of other things and cooking with poop. That might be the title of the podcast: Dragon's Milk Cooking with Poop. Good stuff. Yeah, we're gonna have to find that bourbon though. That's going to be my next task.
Andy will find the bourbon, and we'll do a show on bourbon.
We'll do that for sure. So I hope you enjoyed the podcast today. Like, share, and subscribe. Tell all your friends. Tell your neighbors. Tell your enemies. Tell somebody tell somebody you don't like. Just force them onto it. Just take their phone and scan the QR code, and just let it play.
Perfect.
Yeah, we just want to be able to get that. So, but yeah, interact with us online. Hit us up on Facebook. There are a lot of topics we covered today. There should be a lot of, I would assume that there'd be a lot of feedback on some of the topics that we covered today. So if nothing else, the sport that you just zone in on, something like that. But definitely give us some feedback and let us know what you think about anything that we chatted about. So
we're open to anything.
Sean, anything else here today?
No, if you have Dragon's Milk available in your area, I'm highly recommending to give it a shot. The coffee flavor isn't so terrible as I initially thought it would be. Go ahead and get yourself some Dragon's Milk. Try it out. I appreciate everybody listening. God bless you all, and cheers.
And we'll talk to you next time here on Two Guys and a Beer Pod. Two Guys and Beer Pod. Make sure that I say that right. I want to make sure that I get that wrong. Sean Field, my name is Andy Beckstrom, and until next time, cheers, everybody.